Yeah, so one of the goals or the purpose for this afternoon session of our conference was to see how the elders' teachings influenced the youth in their living and their thinking, and vice versa. So it's meant to be an intergenerational conversation, and to to see how the teachings are being passed down or trickling down and influencing the lives of young people today. And so maybe I could just open it up and say, like, over the years I've worked with so many of you. I see Janie and Elise and Kenna, and this project was really, really great because the young people were involved in interviewing, in transcribing, and writing up the interviews. And then this journal, we thought we were just going to publish these interviews in the journal, and everyone could read them from the first voice of the healers. And they kind of did a dirty on us and said, oh no, this is an academic journal, you have to write in third person. And we thought, okay, that's a real contortionist feat. So the writers had to pretend that they weren't writing about themselves. So together with the youth, if they were writing about me, I would say, well, Catherine thinks this and does this. It just was a really kind of mind twisting exercise. But we came out of it, and we hope that the teachings are available also for anyone who wants to read the articles. And so at this time, I just wonder if one of the other students or youth would like to either ask a question to one of the elders here, or they want to share a reflection about how these teachings have touched them today. And you don't have to be really young, you can be middle too. We're filling in here. We're giving.
Okay, should I talk for a minute?
Yeah, you were stepping up. We're making it comfortable for Alicia to go and have a coffee break.
Yes, of course. So in honor of Alicia's moment,
Mhm.
I just want to thank Charlie for that opening, which was so special. And it's just so nice to kind of sit back and not have time be such a factor, and we can just kind of open things up and hear some stories and share. So yeah, I guess I should introduce myself for people who don't know. I just feel like I know everybody here. But my name is Mel. I am Michif, Nihio, French, and Irish. I'm a PhD student at Concordia. And I'm a traditional tattoo practitioner, an artist, a community worker. And yeah, I was just really, really grateful for those stories, for Charlie's opening. I'm always glad to hear and see Vicky and Joseph and Kathy and Mo, of course. Jessie, it's nice to see her face. Alicia. So yeah, so while I guess since this started, I've been tattooing. So the whole time that everyone was speaking. And so I'll just show you a little bit. So these teepees were just the outline at first. And so while Charlie was talking, I filled them all in. And so, which is, I think, kind of fitting, because the teepees are, of course, like where my people would have lived on the plains. And I'm a guest here on Charlie's territory, on his people's territory. And so filling those in with Charlie's stories as he was speaking just seemed really, I don't know, appropriate. It was nice. It was healing. I can't hear you, Charlie. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. So, yeah, and then so listening to everyone's stories while I'm tattooing. So just doing these circles. So these are like circles of service, portals to our ancestors, uh, allowing for release and healing and a welcoming in of stories and teachings and all of your faces and smiles. And yeah, so that's been my experience this morning, just kind of listening and doing my thing. Yeah, so thank you for all those stories that are now actually on my body here, in various places.
Marcel, thank you so much. I always get chills every time I see you and your work on Instagram and all over. It's just so fun to think about tattooing and the stories and everything, and how, like you said, everything is cyclical. I do have one more question that came to me in a private message in the chat for our elders for today. It was not anybody specifically, so I'm wondering if maybe Donnie or Charlie or Vicky, you want to speak to this. This person wants to ask what words of wisdom you might have specifically for youth that are on their healing journeys right now.
Nice question.
You know what I would tell you is I would tell you from my own experiences. When I was younger, good 40 years ago, when we began to start to look at who we are and to try to find our path, you know what, I started, and I kind of we had this kind of thing where we had to instantly be medicine men. We had to know everything. We had to know all the songs. We had to know how to burn tobacco. We had to be the greatest dancers. We had to be this and had to be all of these things. And as I matured over time and began to learn, what I began to understand is you can't be everything. You can only do what you can do. Because a lot of times people, it just overpowers them. It gets to be too heavy. And what do? They drop everything and walk away, hurt and lost, rather than go through the hardship of trying to find themselves. They drop everything. So what I suggest to people is take your time, learn what you can. If you can learn your language, the people, one of our friends, and when we were teaching in the school, she said, I asked my mother, she said, how does language begin? How do I learn my language? And her mother said, it's just like a pail of water. You put one drop in, and that's one word. Then you put another and learn that word well and use it. Put another drop into the pail and use it. Make it alive. Another drop and another drop and another drop. And after a while, there's so many drops in that pail that the pail overflows. And then you become a speaker. But it takes a lot of work to put one drop at a time. And it takes time and it takes patience. And that's what she said. There's no magic. We have no magic. We have no special wand that we can touch you on the forehead and you'll instantly speak like the old ones. You have to do the work. And the same thing with songs and the culture and the history. You have to make a little bit of the different things. You have to just take your time, one step at a time, and learn. And as you're learning, then just live it, make it real. A lot of times, a lot of people, sometimes I have people, so we have ceremony dances at the Longhouse. So we have a whole cycle of ceremonies every year. And at midwinter time in January, we renew again our relationship with Creator. And a girl, I used to see her for a whole year, she came. And I would see her, and then she didn't come back. And so I asked her, I said, You know, I said, boy, I used to, where did you go? I said, I used to really like see you coming to our ceremonies. Well, she said, I went for 1 whole year and I saw it all and I don't have to go back again. And I thought to myself, you missed the whole point of why we are here. The whole point is that you go and you stand in front of the Creator and you give thanks for your life. You're not going there to be entertained or to see how it's done. You're going there to live it and make it real. And that's the place where we have to, that fine point, that fine line where we all have to walk a little bit, you know. And if that's, you know, what I would say to people is take your time, learn a little bit at a time. You know, only the Creator knows everything. Sometimes he may have made, he might be on your path to become a singer. Well, learn how to do that. To become a speaker, well, learn how to do that. To become a ceremonial person, maybe do that. Maybe it's not on your path to be a healer or a medicine man or a medicine woman, but that's okay too, because the Creator put the power amongst all the people, not in one. It's just like that. That's the way it is. You know, we have to all do our part. And when we all pull all of these strengths together, we become whole and we become one people and we're stronger. That's the most important thing, is to take your time. One of our clan mothers years ago, my wife and I, we had our kids and we said, oh, we want to come, we want to join the Longhouse. She said, take your time. Well, if it takes you a year or 10 years, just take your time to learn. And when it comes to that time in your mind, when you want to make this solid, then you make that between you and the Creator. And when you shake the Creator's hand, then you can't turn back in your journey. So, you know, that's what I would tell people, encourage you, you know, one step at a time, but own it. Everything you learn, own it, make it real, make it alive. If you don't make it alive, it's going to leave you. All right, thanks.
I like that. Because I would have, I absolutely agree. I think one of the things of, you know, not having grown up surrounded by, you know, my direct family, and then learning stories and teachings and realizing, and I get to see that being with the youth. I see it with you, Otsugara, and with Brooke. Brooke is here with us today, and I still remember that first time at Concordia when I saw the two of you connect, and you had said to me, oh, I've known that little one, you know, all of her life, and how you've always spoken to her in language. And for me, there was an understanding of those, the gifts, those natural things that people would have seen in me. That wasn't necessarily, that wasn't the environment that I was growing up in. I was often, I was a nuisance, I was trouble. And so those, I got told those things, oh, you're nothing but trouble. And so by the time I was, by the time I was probably 8 or 10, I was a whole bunch of trouble, because I always got told you're nothing but trouble. So I turned into trouble. But for those of you who know me, I often say over and over of how important it is to know ourselves, to understand ourselves. And we can't understand ourselves if we don't know ourselves. And, you know, there is so much disconnection and everything. And I often say, like, find out those parts of you, where you come from. Donnie and Kathy know, like, our really good friend, Vicki Reynolds. I like when she says, like, where's your dirt? You know, find out where your dirt is on this rock, you know, and like find out about your people, what are the strengths in that. And one of the there was a student that really touched me one time, and she was Chinese, and we were in circle, and I was in a class, and she was a master's student, and she said, oh, she said, I appreciate that, of like knowing, finding out about where you come from and that, and really owning it, because there's some really good knowledge in there. And I always say it's tools in your box, right? And she, her grandmother, when she was in China, she was 3 months pregnant, and she walked across China to be able to get to Taiwan, to get to a boat to come to the West. And then she gave birth on that boat. And so this young woman who was sitting in front of me, this master's student, she said, when I hit the wall, she said, I think of my grandmother and the responsibility that I have as well, that, my grandmother did that for me. And so then it just changes things of being more, I don't know, just moving more and more into gratitude and being so grateful for all of that happened, but not, I appreciate what Otsugarda was sharing about our ancestors, and not trying to keep, for me, part of it was not keeping them here through my own suffering. Right, out of that need, but celebrating what they've shared and taught. So
Nope. She's gonna tell you to. I forgot to mute.
So yeah, I agree with that. For me, I said earlier, I had all those elders over time saying like, patience, 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 my child. And remembering when I was that little kid, 6 years old, the first time I had that feeling of, this is craziness, people treating me badly. Remember thinking, these adults are so stupid. What's wrong with these grown-ups treating me so badly? But, one day I'm going to help people. I want to do good things with my life. And, but it was all, and the patience. And I didn't get that until, I worked through a whole bunch of that anger so that I could move into a good, loving space and be able to do the work responsibly without doing harm. Because that's really important to me, to not do harm to others. Because my stories, potentially, if I don't share that responsibly, I could really do harm to others, because I come from spaces that were so violent and full of abuse and things. So it is patience, getting to know ourselves. And that young woman in that circle, when I asked her if I could bring her story along with me, because I found it so powerful, it touched me so much. So yeah, and not beating myself up for the repeating thing, because I had to go through that too, where I think like, oh, these poor young people, they hear me over and over, because we're often in the same spaces, and it's like, oh, they have to hear me again. But then in this time of COVID, of really having to stop, and I've gone through some really deep stuff with myself, getting okay with myself, really spending time with myself, being out on the water, and just connecting, and really realizing like I've never ever really been all alone, even though I felt like that in life. I felt so alone and solitude, but I never really was. And yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. It's in those layers of me repeating and sharing, like elders have done that too, and that's how we learn, right? It's like Miwa Sin, the next time I'm gonna have it. Those songs, you know, I went through all of that shame of like, oh, I don't carry enough songs or whatever. But when I got that first drum put in my hands, and I was terrified, I was so scared of that drum. But then when I started understanding, and you know, one of my elders was here earlier today, and she actually was the one who opened my first drum for me and taught me those teachings. She said, I don't want you playing that drum. She said, I want you to carry that drum. I want you to live with that drum. I want you to feast that drum for a whole year, for the 4 seasons. I want you to get to know that drum, get to know that hide, that frame. And I really, at the time, I was like so eager, scared. But when that happened, and especially even now, like, you know, 10 or so plus years later, I understand better that it was like, yeah, that process needed to happen for me to really appreciate it. And I might not know a ton of songs, but the ones that I do know are really, yeah, they're medicine for me, they're medicine for others. So yeah, thank you. And now I'll still got it for sharing that, because it really spoke to me.
Miigwech, Vicky, thank you so much. Thank you both for sharing. Charlie, I see you have your hand up. Joseph, I see you have your hand up. Donnie as well. I think you wanted to say something earlier. I would love to hear from all of you. So the question was, again, the question in the chat that I had received: what advice can you give to youth that are currently on their healing journeys?
Oh, Donnie, go.
Kia ora. Yeah, well, it's something that I'm quite big on and try to support for rangatahi, which is what we call our youth over here, is to learn their pepeha. And the pepeha is the script of identifying their sacred mountain and their sacred source of body of water and their ancestry. And I remember when I was young, that my grandmother would often take me to our sacred mountain, and she would, you know, we would walk up it together, and it would take a whole day, and we'd have to stop and maybe pick some berries on the way up, or chase away the odd cow, talk to cows and things on the way up. But it was a really beautiful experience that I had with my grandmother. And I used to think, why is she dragging me up this great big mountain? And then we'd get to the top of the mountain, and we would sing, and we would just talk, and we would try and touch the sky, and we would watch the clouds. And she told me that it was our guardian spirits lived inside the mountain, and that's what made it sacred. And that was kind of where we came from. That was our ancestor. So so I grew up believing that this mountain was like the nipple of a breast that breastfed us, because she would call it the maunga ukaipo, which translates to the breast that nourishes us. So that fits in really beautifully with Mother Earth. So she often said that the world would be, sometimes people can be very peoply, and you can always rely on your sacred mountain for a sense of permanence, and safety and security, because your mountain is always there. Your guardian spirits are always there, and you can always just call on the Great Spirit to come and cleanse you. We have a proverb that says, Hokia ki tō maunga kia puria ki ngā hau o tāwhiri mātia. And that means whenever you can return home, stand on your mountain and be cleansed by the winds. And so that's something that I do every 2 years. I go back up north, which is a really convenient 20-hour drive from where I now live. But I do that and I take my kids with me and I drag them up the mountain now and tell them lots of stories about our tribe and how we did things traditionally. We do a cleansing ceremony and we dance and we sing and we cry. We howl to the moon. We talk to our ancestors. And it's a really beautiful time of spiritual connection. And I notice if I don't do that, I can feel spiritually unwell or unbalanced. So I know that that over a period of time, if I haven't done that in about two years, then I start to feel unwell, washed out, burdened, irritated, moody, all of that sort of thing. And so I know that I need to cleanse my spirit and go back home to my sacred mountain. So so that's something that I share with a lot of rangatahi, with a lot of youth about that sense of connecting to the land. Because of the colonization here, many youth don't actually know where they come from. They don't know about their tribal histories because of the dislocation. And I think, well, that's okay. Like small steps, baby steps. We can start with you know, some mountains that are here. We can just kind of start by talking te reo Māori, learning some really sort of like basic sort of sentence structures in our own language, because it's really difficult to, I mean, you can't learn the language without learning part of the culture because they're so sort of linked in together. And so it's small steps, and as Charlie's saying, it's like, you know, tiny bite-sized chunks, and it takes a long time. It takes as long as it takes. It can take a year, it can take 30 years, but it doesn't really matter. And I think about the work that I'm doing now, and I keep thinking to myself, okay, so what's the best use of me now? And what's the best use of me for the next 100 years? So that helps me to situate myself in a way that will serve my great grandbabies and become part of the change that I want the world to be. So yeah, I'll just leave it there. Yeah, kia ora, thank you.
Donnie, can you also just say about the haka? Because we often get treated to seeing a whole bunch of young people coming up and doing a haka. And I was also wondering if you feel like singing Tatu Tatu E.
Sure. Do you want to do that now? Would you like to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before you fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm noticing my voice is kind of a bit croaky, and my brain feels a bit like scrambled eggs. So I do apologize for that. Should I find some? I'll maybe just give me a moment, and I'll find the song on YouTube to give me a bit of a zhush, so we can do that together. Yeah. Okay.
And I remember watching a few Maori movies, and they often showcase the young people doing the haka warrior movements to get them to practice, you know, being strong and being kind of like peaceful warriors, to be able to believe in themselves and to believe in their culture. So I always really appreciated that. And I get the same feeling when I see the young people, for example, at the Ganawage powwow, where you see young people in their regalia and they're dancing, and sometimes they're as little as like 3 years old, and they're getting the teachings about how to respect what they're wearing, and you see them out dancing, and it just makes my heart sing. It just makes me want to cry, because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, Kathy, would you like me to actually put it on the YouTube thing so that you can watch it? But I don't know how to do the screen share thingy.
Well, I don't know. It's probably better if you just sing, because
Okay.
unless the technology is easy for you.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah.
Technology is not easy for me at all. No. So well, the oh gosh, where's everybody gone? So
I understand that.
oops, sorry. So the Tūtira Mai Ngā Iwi song is what we call a waiata aringa. So it's an action song. So I could actually kind of do the actions and stuff if you would like to.
Yeah, we can try and do it with you.
participate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to get the other little
Sorry
speakers
about
so that it's easier to. Oh my gosh. Right. Oops. Oops. Okay. Go. Ready?
And iwi means family, right? Like clan, extended family. Your iwi.
Yeah, iwi. Yes, iwi means tribes people.
Okay.
And this song is called Tūtira Mai Ngā Iwi, and it means you know, let's thread all of the tribes of the people together, regardless of what tribe you are. We'll knit them all together. All of us, like me and you and everybody else that's here, and we can weave together and join together in love, and be as one for this time that we're together. Yeah, sorry, I'm just translating it. And yeah, and we can just be together and be like one people for this kaupapa, for this event. Yeah. So if anybody's game enough to join me, please do. So you can stand up and yeah, if you stand up, and usually what we do is we do this with our hands. It's called a wiri, and it's a slight shaking in the wrist, and what that embodies is the movement, is the life force. Everything has a spirit and a life force, including rocks and stones and things like that. So this actually is to show the frequency or the life force of your body. Okay, so I'm just going to do play the song. I'm going to try and do it on my own anyway, but you know, I'll do my best. Okay.
Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Pai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, ki a tapatahi, ki a kotahi raha, tātou tātou e. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Pai a
Yay, thank you. There's a little Maori energizer.
A little Maori song, and that was the first way that we would speak Maori.
We can't hear you very well, Donnie.
And most of our songs are about
Okay.
ancestry, stories about the land, stories about connection.
Oh, Donnie, I see that you're
Yes.
speaking, but I think your mic might be covered. We can't hear you.
Thank you, Donnie. Kia ora. Mhm. Oh, she's turned her mic off now. So I'm thinking, Jesse, is this a good time to pass the question over to, I know Charlie wanted to say something, and then we've got Joseph and we have Mo that are going to offer their reflections to young people. So
Yeah.
Charlie, did you want to say, sorry? I'll let you facilitate, Jesse. Jesse, go
I
ahead.
forgot what I was gonna say. But I can read
Okay.
one thing though that I would tell you, for especially for young people, you know, you're trying to learn language, you're trying to learn songs and so many different things. And there are two in our community. I can only talk from our kind of like community experiences. When we were in our community, when young people were trying to learn the language or are trying to learn the language, quite often the old timers, the speakers, what's the first thing they do? They get impatient and right away they kind of almost like scold them. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how to speak the language. Oh, you said this wrong, or they laugh at you or they make fun of you. And then what happens? That young person that's really making a sincere effort to learn is already slapped down and defeated and never tries again. And that happens so many times over the years. And even sometimes it happened to me, you know, my and I said to them, you know, what would you rather have, me making an effort and trying, or not ever speaking at all? Let the language die. Which is what do you believe in? You know, my uncle used to, he never made fun of me. He just used to laugh when I speak. He said, oh, you sure murdered the Mohawk language, he said. And that's what I would ask him. Which would you rather have, me try to speak or never to speak again, or never to try? And I think that's one of the things that young people need to understand. Don't take no for an answer. Don't allow people to put you down and brush you to the side and say, don't even try. Just make it clear to them. What would you rather me do? You know, and
Sense of humor too.
yeah, you know, and do it in a good way, but make that really clear. Which would you rather have? Take your language to the grave and the language will die here, or do we try and bring it back to life? And that's the important thing that young people need to understand. Don't let anybody ever defeat you. Don't let anybody step on your tongue and then you can't ever use it. Use it. It was given to you. That language is yours. It belongs to you. And it's up to you to go and get it. And that's what I try to say. And once you got it, then you got to use it. Make it real, make it alive, make it live inside of you. And that's very important. And however you impart that to the elders, sometimes, I mean, there's two different kinds of elders. There's the elders that I see that are patient and caring and loving and really want to young people to learn and to help and to show how things can be, to make us real. And then there's some that are just, I was going to say not taught, but what I would say is they were taught too well. The the uh, the assimilative tools of anger and of putting each other down and division, and they use it very well, and that's what's harmed us for so long. we need to care about them too. Maybe educate them. Maybe because that's things that they were not allowed to learn, but don't ever take no for an answer. Go out and get it. It belongs to you. Yeah. And then my wife, she's sitting here. She's saying, don't be too serious about everything. That's why Vicky, a while ago when I stopped you, I wasn't interrupting you. I forgot to hit the mute button. And I was talking to my dog Sazaheta. He was going to jump on the couch and I was going, no, 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 no.
So would you like to introduce your wife? Bring your wife on so we can say hi.
There she is.
Hi.
Oh, so good to see you.
Hey, hello, Vicky.
Hi.
I'm in and out because we still have a business going on. So, but the people are so patient, and it's so interesting what I'm listening to. So, thank you for the work you're doing too. But I'm like Charlie. I had to learn my language when I think I started when I was 21, and at that time there was nothing to learn from. My mother was fluent, but she didn't really speak with us. We lived in Michigan, and I was trying to learn from a Bible that was my grandmother's. It was a hymn book, and it was like an impossible task, but I managed. It's like making that commitment, sticking to it, no matter what. And we had a lot of fun too. You have to be willing to laugh at yourself too sometimes. You can't, it's like Charlie says, don't let anybody stop you. But at the same time, be willing to laugh, because I think that's how our ancestors survived the horrible things they went through.
Our medicine is humor.
They laughed, they made fun together, they made fun of each other sometimes, but they didn't hurt each other. There's a difference. And too often I see that with young people who are in high school, who are bullying each other. And I don't get that. It's I didn't go through that when I went to high school. I went to school with all non-native kids, and I did not experience that then. But I feel bad for what I see now, and I don't know.
You can go out and play, and
It seems to me like
I'll collect that on the way back in.
we have to examine what is
Okay.
how our
All right,
kids, the
somebody-
young
okay, but
ones,
you'll have to wait then somebody will
are
be out for a while.
developing.
Okay.
They've got a lot more information than I had when I was their age.
Yeah.
They've been given more opportunities,
Here, I'll
but
show
they
you.
seem to be so angry, and they take it out on each other, and that worries me, because the worst hurt you can cause is when you do that to your own people. You can kind of take it when it comes from the outside because you expect it. And but when your own does that to you, that hurts, really, really deep. So the reason I say that is I have a 14-year-old granddaughter now, and I see what she's going through. Plus, the world is changing fast. Things are changing a lot. And so too many times I hear my granddaughter say the world is coming to an end. So I don't know where that's coming from, but kind of got to think about that too. There's so much uncertainty that they're seeing on this internet and on the television, and they're always looking at that telephone, and they're always whatever. It's like, I keep telling her that's an artificial world. So, but I thank you for what you're doing, because you're trying to make the young ones stronger. So, Nyawa. And Charlie just left. He'll be back in a second.
Nyawa to both of you. Thank you also to Donnie for sharing the song and dance. I'm so grateful to be here and to be able to meet all of you virtually. I know, Joseph, you had your virtual hand up earlier, so I'm wondering if you have something to add to that, or if you wanted to speak to the question earlier about what advice you can give to our youth on their healing journeys.
And before, Joseph, I just want to say that Elisa and I were really touched by your story of the little red-haired girl and finding out what it was like to get that first kiss. That was like a beautiful story.
I tried to contact that young lady that I met at that time in grade 2, and she blocked me from Facebook. So she didn't have the same memory as I did.
Yeah, she started it.
You know, I was just over in London about 10 years ago, London, England, and I was in the same bedroom as there was a very small rooms over there, you know, and I was sleeping in the living room, and there was no room for everybody, so I had to sleep there next to a 2-year-old, a little 2-year-old who was really bright and just brilliant, you know, just self-contained, you know, she could speak good English. And I just wanted to comment one thing. There's on my screen beside me is a beautiful elder, Margaret Simpson. I just want to acknowledge her for being part of the session here. So I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're there. I'd like to hear your story sometime. We always are told to listen to our elders, you know, and there are elders that have had great life, great experience. So I'm glad you're part of this and listening, and I haven't heard you yet. So there I am sitting in a living room, and we get up early in the morning, and I like to turn on the tube, you know, and watch football or watch something that I like, you know. But then there's this little 2-year-old, and she has her interests too. There's things that she likes as well. So she taught me a very important lesson. So I'm like turning on the tube, and I'm switching channels, and do you like this? You know, I got my football channel. Says, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. And then I switch it to another channel. There was a cartoon, you know, of Mr. Bean. All of a sudden she says, I like it. I like it. I like it. And so I learned a real important lesson coming from it. You know, it's really important to say things that we like or don't like. You know, if you don't like to do something, don't do it, you know, or if you like it, just go for it, you know, just trust that that's what you're supposed to do. I was traveling one time. I was in my car. I always talk to people because it's a long journey to Valhalla or wherever. It's a long journey back home. And there's a phone call I get, you know, so my sister, Morning Star, and she says, I'm telling her, you know, I'm complaining about all the time, you know, that I'm spending on Zoom and all the people that are, you know, asking for this and that and all this stuff, you know, and all of a sudden she says, you know, brother, I'll teach you a very important lesson. Oh, what is that, sister? I really could really use a lesson. I'm just getting inundated with so many requests. And she says, Moya, it says, there's a Cree teaching that I learned, you know, Moya. And then I just laughed, you know, because Moya means no. Eh? You got to learn how to say no, no. And just to back up just a little bit about, you know, young people on their healing journey, you never know where the road will turn. You know, I was visited by my mom when I was about 7 or 8 years old. She came to the residential school. I'd already been there for about 2 years. And so you can imagine after 2 years, and I've never seen Mom for 2 years. I didn't see her for 2 years because I was raised by my grandparents. And there's my mom coming to visit me, to come and check on me. Bless her. And so I got called, you know, on intercom, Joseph, you have a guest. You have a visitor. They didn't really say who it was. So I went over to the chapel and sat in the chapel. And I looked at this woman and I didn't recognize her. And we sat there in this little dark chapel and we just looked at each other. And I kind of looked away, you know, I didn't really want to be disrespectful, but I just, you know, looked at this woman. I said, I need to go. I wonder who this is. Who is this woman that's sitting here And we sat there for the longest time in silence, just complete silence. And just like that, we both parted. I went back to my life at the residential school, and she went on with her life back on the reserve, or, wherever she was living at the time. And when I thought about it several years later, because the memory, fast tracks into a flashback down the road. All of a sudden, flashback. I'm about 25 years old and 20 years old, I'm somewhere in my 20s. All of a sudden, this memory comes. Oh, that was my mother. That was who came to visit me many, many years later. I said, that was my mother. And she came just to come and check on me. And that brief visit carried me for the next 20, 30 years. It carried me and lifted my spirit. That just little 20 minutes of silence and just her physical presence was so powerful to a little child who had been separated from their whole world. And to remember that, it just kept me going. It just kept me going on this journey, this life journey. So what I'm saying from that experience is that's only one part of my my experience at the school there. And that in itself is extremely traumatizing, extremely disconnecting, from everything that you ever could imagine. But the fact that she visited me meant a lot to me. And what I'm saying on top of that is the human body is extremely resilient, but you have to move, you have to sing, you have to dance, you have to be creative. You have to use whatever resource you got within your body, within your being. And you also have to trust. And you can't trust if you're overloaded with alcohol or drugs. You can't really see clearly if you get too involved in these substances. So be very careful, very cautionary about that when you start entering into that place, or if you are there now, because many other thoughts will enter into you, what they call a dark spirit, or somebody is always waiting. There's entities out there that will try to find people that are weak, and they enter into you and they want you to die. They want you to commit suicide. They want you to keep drinking. They want you to keep, dying. So that I know from experience, that you will die if you don't look after this body that you're given for this one short life. It's not a long life. It's a very short life. When I think about it now, I'm 68. I'm in the last phase of my life. And I'm very honored to be able to say what I've experienced, or at least experience the fruit of the elders that taught me. They were once young. I'm sure they had a hard time, and they spoke from experience and wisdom. Their wisdom comes from that. So just to say a few words here, just say if whether you like it or not. Just say, I don't like it. No, I don't want to go with you to wherever. I like it. Let's go to that powwow or something. And don't forget to say no. Namoya. Namoya or moya. So those are things I'm learning as I'm in my 60s. I'm just learning these things that I should have learned when I was in kindergarten. And as a child, I'm learning that in my 60s. So it takes a long time to self-realize and to be self-confident and to have a good enough, esteem and self-esteem about yourself, to feel worthy, to feel like you matter, as they say, right? So it takes a long time. I'm going to wear this orange T-shirt all this year, right till next year. I just keep wearing it, because it's a good sign. It's a good image to wear, So I just put it on. I'm getting used to wearing it ever since Orange Shirt Day happened, So thank you for listening. But I'm Scott now. Greetings to everybody.
Thank you so much, Joseph Chimigwech, for sharing. All these hearts popping up. I love seeing that. I'm wondering, Mo, if you have something to share with youth that are currently on their healing journeys, if you would like to speak to that question at all.
Yeah. Um, well, I think as someone who we've seen how much I've cried today, that like tears are very important, and so are to be able to share, to be able to be witnessed, to not hide those energies. I often think about, if the Thunderbirds were intimidated or humiliated every time they rained, we would never have rain, and we would never have that healing and that cleansing that's so important for the earth. And I guess I've just been thinking a lot about different rituals and different ceremonies that I've attended, and that I don't know what in me has brought me to them, but having the courage, and I guess having the openness to feel safe enough to try new things, and to put myself in situations that maybe scare me a little, maybe feel unfamiliar, or feel a little bit like they're at the edge of my knowing, or the edge of my understanding, or the edge of my experiences of being, and how important that has been for me in my healing journey. Um, because if I just sit here and hope that I'm going to heal, or hope that maybe some magical tool from above is going to fall and land in my lap, then I would never have gotten myself into some of the most wild and strange and beautiful and challenging situations. And I think one of those was Sundance. I became a Sundancer 5 years ago, and that was through teaching up in Chisasibi, up in northern Quebec. I responded to a call for artists to go and do work in community. And I was really scared to do that. What will it be like to be in a community of folks I don't know? What if the youth don't connect to what I have to share? A lot of these like worries of like what I don't have, of what I don't yet know, instead of sort of saying, okay, I do have tools in my toolkit so far, and I do have elders, and I have friends, and I have kin who I can connect to, and who I do trust, and who will support me in this. And finding that shift, finding that balance to be able to turn towards the tools and the teachings and the learnings that I have, instead of just looking at all of the expensive things that I have no clue yet. And knowing that all of those things that I might feel clueless about, that they're going to find me when the time is right. And I may question something and want an answer now, because we can Google anything today and get some weird, wild answer, but that when the time is right, that those teachings are going to find you. And so I went to Chisasibi, and I actually invited a friend, because I thought, I'm going to, go with kin, and I'm going to find a way to make this work with one of my brothers from the South, who's from Mexico. And we went up there in February, and my friend doesn't really like snow. And I tried to convince him that the snow was just like white sand from the beaches of Cancun. Didn't really work. But I went to ceremony while I was up there, and through that ceremony, I met Harry Snowboy and Juliana Matouche Snowboy, and through that, I started to connect with them about Sundance and about some of these other ceremonies and practices and teachings. And so that's what eventually brought me to Sundance. And I arrived at Sundance having a little bit of an understanding, but not knowing exactly what I was getting into. And sometimes that not knowing, I think, can be really, really good medicine, and that, we learn as we go along. But sometimes going before and being a helper, and offering of yourself and your gifts before engaging in a ceremony is also really helpful. So I went and I decided that I was going to Sundance. And that was when I found out you Sundance and you commit to 4 years of your life to the Sundance. And 4 is a very important number. And this is something Joseph and Cheryl have shared a lot, And I feel that in order to complete certain cycles, to come full circle, like Vicky was talking about, that we need to have repetition, and we need to continue to show up to those ceremonies, to those elders, to those teachings. And that learning process isn't just something that happens overnight. And that, you know, we may get one little breath of a teaching, one strawberry, but we need to collect all those strawberries in order to have the fullness of that ceremony or the fullness of those teachings. And so consistency, and that requires consistently believing in myself, consistently believing that even though I've received some teachings, and I've given gifts and given offerings to those elders, to those teachers, that it's still okay to continue and to ask for more help. And in asking for more help, I'm then able to offer more help to others, and that system of reciprocity and return is going to continue. And I think of one ceremony in particular at Sundance, which is the fire ceremony, where we bring the fire inside the arbor. And this ceremony, there's 7 people who are invited to share their relationship with fire. And each of those people has a small little handful of wood, kindling, birch bark, little bits and pieces of the fire. And they animate that fire, and they animate that gift of fire with their own story, with their own contribution, with their own relationship. And then they dance that wood over to this communal hole in the earth, and they begin to build that fire. And so they build the fire with their voice, with their heart, with their mind, with their stories, before they ever actually build the fire with their physical contributions. And then they're given one match to light that fire. And they have to light the fire with only one match. But by the time they've reached that match, they've already put all that prayer and all that spirit and all that intention into the being and into the making of this flame. And in voicing that with everybody in the circle and everybody in the ceremony, the drummers who are playing the drum while they dance that wood to the hole, the pipe carriers who are watching and caring for the pipes and the prayers and those relationships, they're listening and they're animating that fire into their pipes. And then us as the dancers on the edge of that lodge, we're animating that fire already with our bodies and with our hearts and with our feet on the earth. So that one match contains all of that energy, all of that potency, all of that animacy. And in the 4 years that I went to Sundance, I never ever saw that fire not get lit. And I say this because I think it's so important for everybody to know what is the bundle that you carry to that fire, and to trust that that bundle has value, no matter how many pieces of wood are in it, no matter how much birch bark, no matter how wet you think the wood is, or how, inadequate or whatever, that it has substance and it has value, and the value that it carries and the value you carry comes through those prayers and comes through that intention and comes through that relationship with community. And my final little sharing around fire is, I was doing some teachings in an elementary school, and I've been sharing and teaching about sweetgrass and about sage and about our sacred medicines. And I had lit the sweetgrass over the winter months, and it was not a problem. I was smudging inside the school and everything was okay. And then I went back in the springtime and I lit that smudge. And instead of the smoke doing this fancy dance that it had done in the wintertime, that smoke went straight up into the sky. And I thought, oh, this is different than last time. And right as I had that thought, the fire alarm went off. And the whole elementary school had to do a fire drill. So all the little ones and all the teachers with their fire drill binders, and everybody's freaking out, and nobody had okay, we're doing the fire drill, the fake fire drill today. And I thought, oh my gosh, because I lit this smudge, because I was trying to offer these teachings, I'm so humiliated. What have I done? I've done something so horrible. And in that moment of that extreme humiliation, of that extreme embarrassment, this little kid came up to me, tugged on my sleeve, and said, Miss, do you know what this is? And all I could think was like, this is total humiliation. This is a big problem. I've made this huge mistake. And this little one said, this is a sacred fire drill. And that was all I needed to shift my thinking and to shift the focus on myself and on this, this mistake or this challenge that I thought I had done and that I was kind of taking on into, okay, this is a different opportunity for learning. And even in the mistakes that we make, there is something sacred in that for us to take with us. And so I share that with you all in the hopes that even if you make a mistake or even if you come across that feeling of shame or humiliation or fear, that is also a teacher. And what do you need in order to calm that, in order to right that relationship with yourself and with your spirit, and know that you are sacred and that you have a role to play in this circle. So that's what I want to share. Hi.
Thank you so much, Mo, for sharing that story with us. And thank you also to Mo and to everyone for these reminders that laughter is medicine. This keeps coming up in all these stories, and I see everybody giggling on their cameras. It feels good. It brings us together. I'm wondering as well if this might be a good time for a song. Somebody earlier had mentioned the Hi song. And so I'm wondering, Mo and Joseph and Vicky, if you would like to jump in and sing for us again.
Yeah, and what I was thinking is this song is a song of gratitude. I will let the singers explain it, but maybe when you think of something that you're grateful for, you might want to just write it in the chat. Hi, whatever the thing is. But I'll turn it over to the teachers to explain more about this. And after this, we'll have the closing proceedings. And then we'll be, heading into, if we were Jewish, it would be the Shabbat or the weekend, depending on how you see things.
Go, Mo.
Oh yeah, sure. Put me on the spot. Well, this song we wrote, I think, didn't we write this song as we were garbage picking on Toronto Island?
We did.
So we were with our friend Cheryl Arondel, who's an amazing Michif Nehio artist and singer and auntie. And we were gathering and picking up the garbage on Toronto Island. And as we were doing that, we were just thinking of all the things that we were grateful for. And so moving along on the land and being able to sing and to walk at the same time. And that's usually a pretty good measure that the rhythm that you've created for a song is a good rhythm when you can walk or you can dance and you can sing that song. And so the song goes, Kami awasit kami wichitoyak. And now I'm going to try and remember what the words mean. Take it away, Joseph.
Hey,
I know some of the words, but
the kamioasik, it means when it is perfection, when it's beautiful, when it's, good, when things are good. Kamiuichi, and we are getting along well together. Kamiuichi toak. So that's the first two lines. First line, I guess. What's the second line?
Easpimoyak katapim soyak.
Okay, Easpimoyak is like taking refuge in something. Easpimoyak, we take refuge into some state of mind, some state of heart. Easpimoyak.
Katapim soyak. So tapim soyak would be like truth and
being in control over your own destiny. So that's, yeah.
Nin hote ituan.
Nin hote ituan means I really want to say this. I really want to say this.
Hi.
Hi. Which basically it's an expression of gratitude that the old people use, you know, after a visit or after gratitude of something. Hi, hi. And then that's when you come in. You put your word on chat or else you shout it out. Hi, hi. Mother Earth. Hi, hi. Donnie. Hi, hi. Vicky. Hi, hi. Kathy. People. So go ahead, Mo.
And Cheryl recently shared too that from a syllabics, like the spirit markers. So the first way that our languages were kind of written, that hi, like I or ah, is like one of our first sounds. So it's one of the first sort of spirit or sounds of creation. And so when you say hi, you're also thanking all of the spirit and that which created you, or that which created the thing, the person that you're grateful for.
You want to try back and forth? You do the first line, I'll do the second line.
Why don't I do one whole round and then you do the second round, okay? Kami awasit kami uchitoyak, aspi moyak atapim soyak, ninote itwan, hi, ishkoteo, fire, hi, nibi, water, hi, yutin, wind, hi, aski, earth.
On a different key. Kamiwase kamiwichi tuya. Iyaspim moya katipim suya. Enote tuan. Hi, headphones. Hi, sweet grass. Hi, doggy. Hi, Zoom friends and family.
Kami owasit kami wichitoyak, aspi moyak atapim soyak. Anybody, you can unmute yourself and say it. Okay, ready? Everybody unmute. Ninote itwan. Hi.
Healers, teachings.
Hi.
Hi. My family.
Hi.
Grandchildren.
Hi.
The sun in the morning.
That's right on. Keep going. Kamiwase kamiwichi tuya. Iyaspim moya katipim suyak. Nenote tuan. Hi.
Healing.
Hi.
Mother.
Hi.
Patient.
Hi.
Colleagues.
Get away, Mo. Couple more times.
Kami owasit kami wichitoyak, aspi moyak atapim soyak, ninote hitwan. Hi.
Good health.
Hi.
Community.
Hi.
My
Serenity.
father.
Hi.
For music.
Kamiwase kamiwichi tuya. Iyaspim moya katipim suya. Nenote tuan. Hi.
Community.
Kukam.
Hi.
Kukam.
Culture.
Hi.
Love.
Please.
Love. Yeah.
Close off.
Final one.
Yep.
Kami owase kami wechitoyak. Eyaspi moya katapim soyak. Ninote itwan. Hi, hi.
For all the students.
Hi, hi from Saskatchewan.
The
Beautiful.
forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that song. I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to come together despite the pandemic, for this technology that allows us to connect over Zoom and to share the smiles and the laughter and the stories and all the knowledge. I'm grateful to our elders and our knowledge keepers here today, for our facilitators, for Kathy and for Alicia and for Juliet and Elise that shared today. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm wondering, Charlie, if I can pass it back to you. You did such a beautiful opening this morning. If you would be ready to close off the day for us. Nyawa.
One kati ko tiokwa. One ne aso wato siyoste. Ne shorun ke ne gi ona so the toda so ge wahi. Ne gi wahi ne wa kwa wano hets to hon to kari wate kwa. Kanu wada dun sra ne gi akwe ge wacha kwa kawan. China te towatere. Akwe go set on it to wire akwe go take one word out. Chinora chi tesawari wash ne. Chini kwari hota. Ona ne niyo ni tunu tunakato na junu ni kit ni stanti hun chade. China hote ago dashira wai. O hun te suo honu kwa suma. O ne wahi ne niyo ni ne hotera suma. Tane ne niyo ni rawere ne sugoya disune. Ai to side watu kaya ke te sugoya toi chi wahia kero. To karan agwe go chini ka hwachira ne kahi suma. Tane ne niyo ni chi ka kwakero asini ko tate ko kuma tane chini oye no ho te ka kwakero. Ne ki wa ito side watu kaya ke. Tane ne niyo ni wahi ne chi ka ne karunyo. Agwe ko ne chut ko ne chakwa agiro ne yori hoana chino ho te tutkao no ne ka suma to sa wa stat jitu he. Chino ho ta wo gesu ne yu na ta wo hache segi wa ito na chito wa ere kanu wara don se ayatia jara to se ki sega no ye chito he. Tane chikar harunyo chika kuira ke ere ki karunta ke ere o wa tan kwa kuano. Karagun stone ko te dakenu gestures ko dio. Ona ka dio ska ka kwe ko ne. Quanto wawe nuni kwa ni kuna kwe dia tino warada chino ho tane hunchake ka. Te yuna to yo hach. Yuki at the no hach. To gine na yo tuak ne yo kwa ni kun. Ona ne ni yo ni tunu hona yo kwa tu kwa en gana kwa yo kwa ten just the duche. Negi wa hi o ne tunu yo kwa to na yera te o jito kun ara ti chanuches. Tane ne ni yo ni wa hi chiki ka yeri ni ka wera ge chu kwa te raspi ji se yo worote. Tono ni o ni ko dia do horoko ye ti soto gumara di wer chututa kona yuki ni gora rajes to seki ango tketsko ne kachi no yoanus ayaki anis rokta ko tane ne ni o ni degni dira kwar ke ye chido chi o swat he to tano yuki sota asota kene ka gara ko se ye kusarach kwachi ni o de jisto kwaluni ona ka di skakara ajito wa nuni agwe gone de tinwarado Chino ho te karuya ke shina kwa yana to wa hachis tane do tiri wa no wa ko no ho te ne huncha ke ka ana are ne ki wa hi to ne ni ti ho yero ne ne kwa hi ne skat ne yo dio te ne ki ari huni ko I we ko no tan se yo chito he ona ne ni o ni kwa chini o ne shugoya disu tan shugoya disu raun ha cha ka yeri ni gwe te ke I se ki ona ta cha disu ne ta ko no wa do ki waske ni nak to ta se arestu ma se ke Aya kwa te ni ko ra kwa ri te chini kwa ri ho ta I to wa te west aya ki a ta ni ra te sko na I to no te ni se ke ona chini ha te a gwe go o je ke ta hun ka ho ni ra o di ni ko ra hun ta ti a gwe ko ne te kwa no ra to ona ne ra hiri wa ne ko ne se ko ya te so sa ko ti no ra ro ro ke Kanene reticence to slowanus. Ona ne agwe gune ona what's going to kakashu go no niguna. Ona gine gune on skona jinichi jut kudakune ahati hawi sigeskona jinichi amzahadi no tunuhake. Ona gadi tokati nakari what queen. So I make it short and sweet. At the beginning of the day this morning, we gathered and we acknowledged all the things that give us life. That human beings, we're just a part of this greater being called the cycle of life. For all of you young people and elders that are here that are listening, I choose the finest words that I could ever choose, and I acknowledge each and every one of you for the work that you do, for the great minds that you carry, for the beautiful songs that you carry. And I give you my greetings, and I thank you for the beautiful work that you do. For your young people, I offer words of encouragement and inspiration because you're so special that you spent your whole day just sitting here listening and trying to broaden your minds and to open your minds and learning more and more things that will help you to to get stronger as Okwehonwe people. I thank you for all of the great power that you exert and the work that you do. And now finally we turn to all of the things of the earth that we gave thanks to this morning, our mother the earth, and all the root life and medicines, all of the plant life, the berry life, the food life, the waters and the animals and beings that live in the water world, right till we get to the trees, the small trees and the great maple, and all of those things, that all of the animals that run in the forest that give us life. So as one mind now, we bundle our minds together as one mind, one heart, one spirit. We give thanks to all things of the earth, because they work so hard and they never stop, they never tire, and they always work to help us. And because they work for us, we live. And now we turn our minds to all things of the sky, and the birds that fly above our heads, and the four winds, our grandfather, the thunders that watch over us, right, to the sun and to the moon that take care of us each and every day and every night. And we acknowledge them right till we see the stars. And so we give our greetings to the stars as well. And so as one mind, we give our greetings to all things of the sky. We thank them for the work that they do to help us. And this work that they do, they work together with things of the earth, and together they make strong this greater being called the cycle of life. And because they work together, we live. And so now we turn to the Creator, and we thank the Creator because the Creator allowed us a beautiful, beautiful day. We were able to share a lot of thoughts and a lot of good things, and there was such a good feeling amongst the people. So we thank the Creator for allowing us this time together. And then we ask you, Creator, to ask the four sacred messages that live above us in the sky world, that watch over us, and maybe they could spread their energy around each and every one of us in our homes and in our villages, so that we will always rest in peace and have good thoughts, and we'll never trip on the things in front of us, and we will be at peace. And always remember, they will always help us and guide us, that we always try to walk a path where we call it a Okwehonwe path, a path of real people. And so we thank them for their effort at this time. And so now what we say, we unbundle your minds, all of you. Now you go about your business, go home, see your loved ones, feed your children, feed your families, and then be strong and be at peace, because you deserve it. You did a good job. And so we thank you so much for your words. And so now to end with on a serious note, I know that you guys all came here and you really took a lot of food for thought home with you. And so I remember Tommy Porter one time telling us a story. He said about these two young trappers. They had a canoe going to a main village. They had a canoe full of furs, and they went to the big village. They're gonna sell their furs for different things. And so when they sold all their furs, and they got what they got paid in money or sugar or whatever. And then they were walking, they saw this stand. It says, it says on their hot dog stand, hot dogs for sale. And those people, they came from, they love to eat dog meat. And so they asked the person, what does that sign say? They said, oh, hot dogs for sale. They're selling dogs. Oh boy, they said, would that ever be good? So they went there and the guy said to them, he says, can I have 2 dogs? And then the guy looked at them and he took 2 wieners and he put it in the roll and he wrapped it in paper and he gave it to them. The guy looked at, oh, he put it in his pocket. And the other guy said 2 dogs and he put those wieners in and he gave them those in the wrap and he looked at it too. He says, oh my, and then he put it in his pocket. And they jumped in the canoe and they start paddling their way home. And about a mile or so away from the village, the one guy turns to his friend and he says, which part of the dog did they give you?
I knew it was going to be a real serious
That's
note.
that was Tommy Porter's story. So, so just as long as we're on food for thought, I thought I'd throw that. But you guys, thank you so much for this beautiful day. Thanks for inviting me. And I hope I was able to help in a good way. Nice to see you again. Nice to see all of you. Now,
Yeah, go.
It's such a great way to end today. Thank you so much, everyone, being here, and have an amazing day, an amazing weekend.
And I just want to thank Craig for all the film, the camera work you've been doing behind the scenes there. Hi to you, Chimigwich.
And Emma for doing an amazing job helping me out throughout the day. Great.
Take it away.
Anna.
Nala.
Joksy.